This broadcast is about introduction to a new word in probate law, estate court terminologies, and we are introducing this term to you so you be aware of it and not be caught off guard if you encounter this word.
Another confusing legal term, ademption. Confusing because it sounds like adoption or maybe to attempt, like attempted murder, but it doesn't mean that at all. Within a will, if the item that's being distributed, the gift, fails because it no longer exists, maybe the person gave it away or sold it, that is what we call ademption. There's all sorts of rules around it. Why don't we just call it a failed gift instead of making up a word that nobody understands the meaning of? Another confusing legal term, ademption. Confusing because it sounds like adoption or maybe to attempt, like attempted murder, but it doesn't mean that at all. Within a will, if the item that's being distributed, the gift, fails because it no longer exists, maybe the person gave it away or sold it, that is what we call ademption. There's all sorts of rules around it. Why don't we just call it a failed gift instead of making up a word that nobody...
Now, he's complaining about making up a word, but when they make up other words, or not even making up words, that's a ancient term, ademption. So we're going to look at someone else's explanation of that word and see what they come up with.
Looking for a cool way to keep everyone entertained this Thanksgiving. This giant 3x4.
So what is ademption? My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today let's take a look at one of those arcane and archaic and strange legal terms that you find in your will that you may not know what it really means. If you've never heard the term ademption, or you've never actually looked at that provision in your will, don't feel bad. Most people have no idea what ademption means, and oftentimes they've glossed over that part of their will, and they've just moved on because there's other more important provisions in their mind, at least when they're reviewing it. However, it's important that you understand what ademption is and how it can affect your will. So, ademption occurs when you've specifically granted a piece of property or a specific item to somebody under your will, but when you die, we can't fulfill that specific bequest. We can't give that item to them. There's three main ways this can happen. Sale or disposition, number one. This is because that item was sold. You have your 1967 red Corvette, but before you die, you already sold it to somebody else. So if you were going to give it to your son, John, in your will, but you've sold it already, then that gift has been deemed and can no longer be given to him. And your personal representative or your executor does not have to go out and find another 1967 Corvette to give to them. That gift has deemed and no longer goes to John. Number two, it's been destroyed. So that Corvette was sitting in your garage, and a tornado came through and destroyed everything in the garage, including the Corvette. Once again, your personal representative does not have to go out and find another red 67 Corvette. That gift is no longer given to John. And finally, for number three, there can be a change in nature. So if, for example, you were originally going to give a small hunting cabin in your lake home up north, but now that hunting cabin is no longer a little hunting cabin, but has been made into a huge residence that you rent out as part of your winter and summertime to other people in the neighborhood. In that case, it's no longer the same thing. It's changed in nature, and it would also have been to have deemed, because that hunting cabin is no longer really a hunting cabin. There's two types of ways we can have ademption. The first way is by what we call ademption by satisfaction. So we'll go back to our situation where John's inheriting a 1967 red Corvette. Let's say you actually give that Corvette to John during your lifetime. So before you die, you sign the paperwork, he's got title to it, then that is deemed under the will, and you do not have to then give him another Corvette when you die. The other way is by ademption by extinction, and that's mainly what we've been talking about, and that is something has happened to the Corvette where it's no longer in your possession and cannot be given to John when you die. You're going to more commonly encounter ademption by extinction, because normally we lose that asset or something happens to it, but occasionally we will actually give a family member that advance. Maybe there's that piece of artwork that's been in the house and you're downsizing and it's in your will, but you're going to give it directly to John already, so you don't have to worry about it ademing under the will, and you don't have to worry about being distributed after you're gone. So the implications are twofold when we have ademption of one of your bequests. First one is if you're the person making the will and you no longer own that Corvette, it's a good reminder that you want to go back and update your will. You don't have to. It's not a big deal if it's still in there. However, if it's been a few years and you haven't updated your will and now seems like the time to do it, and you've recently sold that Corvette or you've already given it to John, then we can go back in and we can amend your will to make sure we take that specific bequest out. If you're the beneficiary, the person who was going to receive the property under the will, then the implication for you is you don't get what was promised to you. So that Corvette's not there anymore. It's been sold. You don't get to go back to the executor or the personal representative and say, go buy me a 67 Corvette. It's not the way it works. That 67 Corvette is gone. You could use your own money that you get under the will. You can go buy one. You can go find it somewhere else, but the estate is not required to go back and find you another 1967 red Corvette because your father already sold it or because it was destroyed in a tornado in the garage. So hopefully you can see how ademption may work when it comes into your estate plan. So if you don't have a will, this is not something you ever have to worry about. But if you have a will and it has specific bequests of specific items that are going to specific people, then ademption is a principle you need to understand. Because if something happens to that item, if it won't be able to be distributed to the person you're intending to distribute it to, then ademption is a very real part of your will. If you have more questions about ademption or other parts of your will, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red legal strategy session button on the front page. You can click it and you'll be taken to my scheduling page where we can set up a 15 or 20 minute phone call to talk about ademption or other questions you may have under your will. If you like this video, you can hit the like or thumbs up button below. You can click to subscribe on YouTube and watch for future episodes. And I know ademption doesn't sound exciting and it's not something that you'll hopefully even have to run into, but if you're creating your will, it's important you understand what the term means.
I hope that information was helpful to you all in understanding what ademption is. Ademption. I have been studying the production of a will, I would say for about a year now or more. And I never know the exact times because that's not important. But it's been a while. And it's been long enough for me to have come across at least one person who made reference to ademption. And even in all the processes that people provide online, claiming to be gurus and experts on different subjects of law concerning trust law and contract law, this is the first channel that you will come across any type of content related to ademption within these fields of learning. I dug this up based upon I was searching through our website and I saw that another blog was attached to our website, and it was attached because they had related content. And when I clicked on the content, the content was a full display of information about how Indians effectuate their wills and trust. Okay? So, in their wills and trust, abatement and ademption is a key factor. And I noticed that, and I was like, wait a minute. A lot of the information that I looked up for trust in America didn't even mention abatement at all. And it didn't mention any clauses for or provisions for ademption. And so, in that regard, I am glad that I am a seeker and that I didn't just stop with my research on creating the trust or creating the model for the trust using information that was limited, obviously limited in scope. And this is why I don't trust ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, I asked ChatGPT as well just to see what type of results would they be different than what I was getting from Google search engine. And they didn't mention abatement or ademption either. And so, because of the reality that many times people start out with assets in the beginning of creating or building a trust or funding a trust, and creating their will for their estate, and they assign the assets to different beneficiaries within the trust. And there's different provisions for the beneficiaries in the trust. And so you hear a lot about beneficiaries and provisions and beneficiaries without ever hearing what type of information is included or should you include in your will or trust. And so that is some very vital information to know. It's very vital. And even in searching for information about it is limited, because people, a lot of times, if everybody else is not doing something, people, if nobody else is doing it, they're not doing it because they're following the leader. So they're doing what everybody else is doing. But because I am intentionally not doing what everybody else is doing, I am doing a very in-depth and thorough search on all the options, criteria, and or elements that can be added, or clauses. That's what I mean by elements. Clauses within a contract are extremely important. The lack of certain clauses, sometimes, okay, say for example, if you have a provision for attorney fees in your agreement with your in a divorce decree. All right. Well, it's better to have provisions that are limited than to not have any provisions at all, is what I'm told. Okay? So, you want to make sure that when you're drafting documents, or even if you're having someone else to draft those documents, if they have a limited amount of understanding concerning contracts, then your contract, it will be safe to assume that your contract will be limited. And it'll have limited authority and limited scope and limited everything. Unless they have learned some type of crafting skill, and it's possible, because I'm getting pretty good at it myself, where you can use cover-all phrases. And those cover-all phrases may appear on the contract similarly situated to this. I'll give you an example. A contract may say, in the event that the two parties experience agree upon a conflict of interest, the person who is the cause of the conflict of interest must, what should I say? No, I'll put it this way. The person who did not cause the conflict of interest may offer to buy out the person who caused the conflict of interest at a discounted rate or something like that, because I don't have to buy you out dollar for dollar now because you violated, and so you've caused our company to lose value, and so in turn your stock and your percentage of the company, it will automatically decrease, and so it has lesser value, and we can offer you a lesser value for it. I'm just saying, okay? That may be the terms of the agreement, okay? And that clause may be placed in there because you may have experience in times past in dealing with a partner that they cause a conflict of interest, and it causes you a loss, and so to prevent that repeated mistake in business, you have your lawyer or representative to make sure that they draft contracts including that particular clause, proprietary to your agreements, because you understand that in business, the show must go on. And if a person has, say for example, they have some bad media or something like that, and it's bringing down your stocks, you can then do some damage control and report to your shareholders that you bought that person out and they're no longer with the company, and then sometimes that can help with some public relation damage control. Okay, I'm just giving an example of different scenarios where you may want to put a specific clause in your documents that covers, and that's what they call provisions. It's an assurance statement, okay, to assure that nothing goes awry statement. It's foresight. It shows foresight that you're looking ahead, that something could happen, and you're making provisions for that possibility that something could happen. Even if success happens in a contract, you may have clauses that cap a person's value or interest in the whole total earnings. Okay, you may say, well, you only get certain 1% of the total earnings or what have you, like in that manner, and place a clause that puts a cap on what you may even put a clause in there that caps your liability. Okay, what that means is that's what the indemnification clauses are for. Okay, you're saying I want you to sign this sheet of paper, and it has a statement in there saying that you're not holding me responsible if things don't work out. And this is a risk. It's an investment. It has some risk. We agree that we'll do all that we can for the success of the endeavor. But the reality is that it may fail. Okay, and you may lose whatever investments you may have contributed. Okay, that's an indemnification clause. You indemnify someone of harm. Some people call it the hold harmless clause. Okay, a hold harmless clause. And so this Ademption clause seems to be similar to a hold harmless clause. In other words, if I will this to you and I no longer have it when I'm dead, you cannot hold me responsible to or my successors or the trustee to say, if it was written in the will, I'm supposed to get XYZ, and I no longer have XYZ when I pass. Well, you can't be willed that. And so you have to indemnify me of that. I'm sorry I willed you that and didn't take care to make sure that you got it. I apologize, but ain't nothing else I can do but apologize. Okay, that's basically what it's saying legally, in legal terms. Not the apology part, but what I'm saying is it makes no apologies for that, because of the fact that you can't give somebody something the person did not have at the time they were pronounced dead, okay, deceased. If it was destroyed by some manner, or was seized for taxes or whatever, the grantor liquidated it before they passed. Liquidated means sold it, and forgot they willed it to somebody and didn't rewrite the will to reflect that. Well, they're indemnified of harm, and the person, the beneficiary, cannot contest and say, I want this item. I was promised this, that I was going to get this. Okay? Because for one thing, you can't hold a person to giving you a gift. They can take that gift back even after they've given it to you. They can take that gift back at any time. Okay? That's why people take back their wedding rings. When men offer women engagement rings, the law says, and I've seen divorce courts where the man had given the woman a engagement ring. Okay? Nice, big, thousands of dollars worth, whatever, engagement ring. And the woman thought she had it made because the man had given her the engagement ring. It was on her finger. They was going to get married. And he found out right before marriage that she was cheating. He was smart. He didn't just accuse her. He got evidence. Y'all remember the old days when they used to have divorce court? Well, anyway, he got evidence. And I've always loved court. People's court, divorce court, Judge Judy, all of them. I didn't like Judge Judy because she's arrogant and she be ruling wrong a lot. And she thinks she's right, but she's not intelligent. She don't let people speak for her to even be able to judge the matter properly. And that's how she make mistakes. Back to what I was saying. But in that case, he had sufficient evidence against her that she was unfaithful. And why does that matter in any kind of family court case? Okay? That matters because that man is not obligated to give you nothing. Especially not a gift. All right? Now, if he gave you that gift and it was solely based upon the intent to marry you and he has changed his mind, this is a different type of gift. He can take that gift back, that particular gift. He also asked for his money back that he spent on like a traveling trip they went on, okay, together as a couple, and a couple of other things. But he was awarded every dime. He was awarded every dime. And for her to return the ring. Matter of fact, she had to take that sucker off right there in the courtroom and hand it, and just don't even worry about trying to return it later, because you're not going to want to give it up and it's going to be some shit. Since you got the property on you right now, let's make this exchange right now here in the court before the judge. So we don't have to worry about that. Now, the money, you can pay him his money back later. And you better pay him his money back for them trips and all of that. And she was trying to protest it. That's why the judge made her get that ring back right then. Okay, because he knew she was going to try to get out of getting that back to him, because she thought she tricked him. And she thought she was so slick with herself in her dishonor. And she was trying to get out of paying him back, saying that she had spent money on him too, right? And saying, well, do I get back the money that I spent on him. And the judge say, no, you do not. Because this case is about your unfaithfulness. This case is not about his unfaithfulness. This case is about that man was serious and you was playing games. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Okay? It's like I tell everybody, anytime you sue somebody, they can counterclaim you. And so when he brought up all the money he spent on the trip, out of town trip or cruise or whatever it was they went on, she brought up, like she brought him clothes and, they bought things for each other. Now, he didn't bring that up. He brought up specific things that is relative to the purpose he was asking for it back. That a covenant was broken. People got to understand about that covenant. The covenant wasn't wrote down, and it comes before marriage. When somebody is engaged or espoused to you, or under the impression that they are in a monogamous relationship, and then you do something to violate that covenant, and is a conflict of interest for them to proceed on in a relationship with you. There are certain things that if they've invested in the relationship that they can sue you for and take you to court and allow the judge to see if it's like this man's situation where you are asking a reasonable request of return of gifts given to this person. It was reasonable. When he said, if I'd have known she was, and almost called her a whore, and she looked like, but she was a whore. So that's not defamation for him to refer to her like that, because her behaviors were equivalent to that is described as a whoremonger, okay? So in that regard, that is neither slander nor defamation. Is descriptive of the person, and it is an accurate description of the person, okay, as far as opinions go. And he, by it being his personal business, he has the right to enter his opinion in the case. Some people say you can't put your opinion. Yes, you can in some cases. This was personal. This was personal to personal, very personal. Brought into court, but it was very personal. And so even the judge had to ask them about their sexual relationship and so forth like that. Because the lady mentioned that. And that has to be weighed in as well. Okay? And what was determined by that case was this. She had a valid claim to say, okay, we have entered into being intimate with each other. Okay? And the man was under the impression that it was monogamous. All right? And she said that they had made it clear between each other was monogamous. But where she went wrong was all the text messages, all the messages he had to prove that was solid, and calling each other hubby and wifey and this and that and bae and all of that kind of stuff, that it was more than them just meeting each other and really digging each other and wanting to marry each other. He um, had uh, future plans for her, with her, and she violated his interests in the relationship. When she violated his interest in the relationship, he had every right to abandon ship and seek relief for return of his investments in that relationship, because it wasn't what she purported it to be. In that regard, it's just like a contract. When you get into a contract with somebody and they deceive you and they misrepresented themselves, then the contract itself is void on its onset. It's not voidable, it's void. That means like it never happened. And so if in order for, they couldn't wipe away his memories and all of that, but they could return him back, restore him. That's called restoring. They restored him back his financial investments to some degree, to give him a severance pay, so to speak. Okay, he deserved a severance pay. And it's just like when you're employed on your job and they want to let you go and you have not done anything to be let go, then they need to give you a severance pay. They need to pay you to leave because you was expecting that money. You had some expectation. I forgot what the law called it. But it's like a potential expectation of procurement. And you may not know what procurement is anyway. So, but that's the term in law, procurement. Some reasonable expectation of procurement. That's what it's called. The person has to have a reasonable expectation of procurement. In other words, they can't just be thinking in their mind that they're going to get some money. I mean, they had to have already been, say, for example, if a job told you that you was hired and come to work on Monday and it's Friday. And then when you did all the preparation over the weekend, get just like, oh yeah, I'm starting work Monday. You're excited. You went and told people. That's a reasonable expectation of procurement. Because in your mind, you already have the job. It's just a matter of working the hours and then, wait for your maturity term to collect your check. Whether it's a week, 2 weeks, whatever how they do the term in the whole before they pay you out. Okay? And so in this regard, when you're dealing with wills, trusts, and estates, okay, even people not understanding that just like you can get an estate, the people that you are coming up against, that is their estate. And so they have equal protections under the law that you have. And a lot of people get it twisted. They just assume that all businesses is a corporation. But all businesses is not a corporation. And so some of the accusations that you're making are not applicable to the entity that you are dealing with. I noticed that in the city of Houston, you can get water service at your residence by way of the city of Houston water utility. But if you drive about 45 miles outside the city of Houston limits, and I don't even think it's that far, probably about 15 minutes out, there's a little town called Humble, Texas. And if you live in that area, because I've lived in that area before, and if you live in that area, water is provided by the individual people. Each person is responsible for their own water supply. If you want to build your property or where it can connect to the main line that's available, that main line is owned by a private person. You don't have no other choice but to use their service. And no, you can't make them take your presentment, because that's not how they do business. They are family business, I think, and as far as I know, but I'm using that as an example. As far as I know, it's a family business. You know, they had their children all in the office and shit. When you go in there, you're like, I thought this was a professional government facility. They'll tell you quick it's not. They'll tell you quick this is not. We don't have to abide by none of them rules. Pay us our money or we're going to shut your shit off. And guess what? Ain't no fighting that. And people quick to say, well, it ain't no money. Okay, that is true. So, what would you do in a case like that? Let's discuss that, because people need to know what options they have as opposed to telling people they can't pay, okay? Or as opposed to threatening to sue people just to find out they don't have standing, okay? Or being frustrated with bills being disconnected because they sent a presentment and that company is a private company, and so they don't accept presentments. And when they send you an invoice, it's an invoice, it's not a bill. Pay attention. It don't say the invoice of exchange, it say the bill of exchange. Pay attention. If they send you an invoice, okay? And what I mean by invoice, it may not say the word invoice. It may say bill on there, because they old school, they just wrote on there what they think, or had it printed in there or pre-printed or however, whatever. And they may be using a template that a corporation may normally use, okay? Just imagine. I'm just saying, you got to think of the scenario of why their documentation may look similar to somebody you can send a presentment to, okay? Because there's no such thing as, oh, you're a private company, you can't use the words in build in your documents or you'll confuse us. There's no rules like that in existence. Okay? So that's like, it ain't no rules to say that they can't create these documents and send it to you in presentation the way they sent it. And that's the reason that they sending it like that, is because they can get away with it, and they have gotten away with it, and they will get away with it because of the fact that it's not causing you any direct harm. If it is, then you need to take action. And there are ways to do that. And so what I need to go through with you to help you to understand is that if the person has a private business, you cannot take any other action against that business. You don't have a right, you don't have standing, you don't have a claim. Okay? What you have is a real obligation, and you need to pay them whatever form of payment that they ask for is what you need to give them. Now, if you do not have the money to pay them, let me explain to you how you may get it. Or not necessarily. You will not get the money. Okay? But the business will be taken care of. Alright? And what you would do is you would take the invoice that they sent you, make a copy of it. I would make a copy of it on bonded paper. Okay? When you go to any print shop, Office Depot, one of them places, a stationery that still sells stationery, you ask them for copy paper, but you don't want copy paper. What you want is bonded paper. Gonna say bonded on it. BONDED. Bonded. Okay? And it's some people say it's a certain amount of depth it's supposed to have. Alright? I don't know. But one thing I do know is when you make that copy, I would just make sure the type of paper that I have is bonded. I wouldn't worry about the depth and all that. I would just make sure that the paper is bonded, like certificate paper. Okay? And then I will copy it on there, and on another sheet of paper, all right, I would write out what my intentions are. I would say, to whom it may concern, or to trustee, and or to U.S. What is it? U.S. Treasury. I will send a letter to the U.S. Treasury, and that's 1111 Constitution Avenue, Washington, D.C. 20224, I believe. All right. And yes, I do know it by heart. All right. And send that to them and let them know that you do not have the funds to meet this obligation, and that this is a reoccurring obligation I would also put in there uh, how long you would expect for this reoccurring obligation to that you would need for it to be paid for. If you say, for example, if you wanted to be paid for a lifetime, I would calculate uh, 50 years worth of payments. How much would that be? And and then write that out on the note that I'm requesting this $500,000 to ensure that uh, the funds is available for these services for me uh, till my death. And I've calculated out that I should live about 50 more years. And that's what the calculations are for. And have that wrote out on the calculation. 50 years times, okay, if the bill is $200, 50 years times 200. Okay? All right, and that's $200 a year. Now I'll say $2,000 a year for that particular bill, whatever. I'm just giving some examples, okay? And whatever the total for 50 years is, should be on there. And that should be the amount you requested, not for just no one fucking month. Because now you got to send a presentment, and now you got to worry about that same bill next month. Okay? And then make sure that you send that to the U.S. Treasury and let them know you do not have the money to pay for that. It's like welfare. You just send them a letter and tell them you do not have the money. You need the money to pay for this bill. They're not going to send you the money. They're going to send the money to the person that you owe. And they're going to, can't tell you how they're going to send it. I just know that they will get the money. And if the person send you a bill saying that they have not gotten the money, now that you have already sent in your notice that this bill needs to be taken care of every month, I would just make a copy of my bill and send it to them and say, this is the updated bill for this month for your records. And send another copy of your bond you made, your instructions you gave that you wanted your bill paid every month. And they'll get the picture you keep doing that you need that took care of. And you shouldn't be still having to get in this bill if they took care of it. And then if they took care of it and the person being greedy trying to get paid two ways, now you have a right to sue them. Okay? And what people don't understand is once people found out that they can be paid that way, and they did have private business, they converted those businesses to a degree, which means they may know how to process your presentment themselves directly to the U.S. Treasury. But if they don't, then you can't force them to do it. You have to do it. That's your job. You have to do that. If you don't have a CPA that know how to do that for you, then you have to do that. And like I said, all it's just a matter of sending a letter. Tell them what you need. Tell them what you want. what you expect for them to do when you send this letter, and let them know this is in accordance, pursuant to HJR 192, House Joint Resolution 192. Because you have a right to full faith and credit, and it's equal to anybody else. It's equal to anybody else. You have a right to full faith and credit. Now, I'm not going to go through what full faith and credit is in this broadcast, but I guarantee you we will be having a whole series of broadcasts about acceptance, conditions of acceptance, okay? And negotiable instruments. We'll touch a little bit on non-negotiable instruments so you get an understanding between the difference, but we won't linger on creating specific videos about non-negotiable instruments and restrictive endorsements, because we don't advocate for those type of instruments. The reason why we don't advocate for people creating those type of instruments is because think about the words that you are using. Restrictive endorsement. Okay? So what does that mean? That means it restricts the use of that instrument. Now, there are cases when you definitely need to use a restricted endorsement, but those cases are, how should I say, subject to the situation. So since it's subject to the situation of why you would want to use the restrictive endorsement, I can't really be real specific on its use. But what I will say is this: understand that when you want the person on the other end to be reasonable and agreeable with you, right? Then the Bible say, we talking about Bibles and bills. The Bible say, give unto others, or do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And if you would want somebody to be generous with you, then be generous with other people. Okay? For example, if you have a credit card, I'll use myself for example, what I did with my credit cards. Although I know that the banking institutions have already stolen from me, right? I am very aware of that. And so I just kind of backstage that fact. And what I am placing my stage light on is the giving part. And I look at it like this: if I want them to do some work for me and they greedy already, right? Why not give them more money so they can do what I asked them to do? Why not give them more money? So what I would do, I would not, I was trying to restrict the endorsements and restrict everything, restrict. until, I just, I talk to God a lot, and he lets me know, what's good, what's right, and I evaluate my decisions and things that I do. And he brought some light to that situation in that manner. So that's what I currently practice, is giving. What I do, and people like, that's an extra donation. Well, you was missing all the money at first. Why not? Uh, you know, show love, and be like, say, process this presentment for me. Boom, there's a little tip for you, you know. By not signing more money to them, but when you do the endorsement, say for example, if the bill is $330, I'm tell you how I do mine. $330 for you and $330 for the account. You understand? For the principal. And you know, drinks around the house, like that. And so that, and it's unrestricted. It's protected, but it's unrestricted. It's without recourse. What I mean. It's protected. The endorsement is protected because it's without recourse. But at the same time, it is not restricted. Okay? I don't put for deposit only. That's a restriction. I don't put other restrictive words on there. Non-negotiable, instrument, and so forth like that. I just don't put nothing. And I kind of, sometimes I write blank endorsements. And I'm real friendly. And so that they need to understand, you keep sending me these motherfuckers, everybody gonna be blessed. You understand? And so you got to think of yourself as a source and not that somebody is using you. You have to think of yourself as the source and say, okay, if all I'm giving is a doggone signature, why in the hell would you be stingy with that? That makes no sense. That's all the fuck you got. You don't got shit else. It's a lot of people trying to tell about they access in the trust. They ain't got shit. What you accessing? Somebody else shit? What you can do is create something with your signature, with your hand, by your hand. Okay? The Bible says, by your hand. And when you intentionally do it, wow, it's powerful. It's a lot more powerful than when you was thought you was applying for credit to actually get credit. It's a lot more powerful to apply for credit so that you can write checks to everybody involved. Oh, they gonna pass it around now. Oh yeah, they gonna pass it around. That's how you build up your estate. Just keep signing up, and guarantee you, trust me, open sesame. People, I was watching one of Yusef videos, and he was talking about credit, and he gives some really good advice for people who are still trapped in the credit world of going out and trying to get a credit card and pay the bill every month and this and that, okay? And in that regard, I don't speak to that. I don't speak to people going to go get credit cards and trying to build up their credit and stuff like that, because um, that's futile. And I don't put people on a spinning wheel, and that's just a spinning wheel. And he doesn't mean any harm. He's giving them the best knowledge that he can and that he has, or that I've even heard, of how to build your credit. And it was very good ideas as far as the system goes, okay? But there's a factor that he's not aware of, I don't think, or either he was just designing that particular content for the people that he understand that are not gonna understand on this level, because he was even trying to explain about how to do the presentment and send that as payment in back to the credit card company or to the vendors that you're dealing with. Okay, now I corrected that and said vendors, because people need to understand, when you apply for all of these different credit cards, just apply, 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 okay? Don't worry about no freaking inquiries. Don't worry about no freaking, oh, it's going to bring my score down. Don't worry about none of that. If you're venturing into this arena of space of having your own estate, you don't need it. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. Just think about it. If a person who's wealthy don't give a fuck about credit because they can just buy what they need, what the fuck do you need credit for when you can just get what you need right now? See what I'm saying? When you can just get it right now. And now you gotta build your credit up to do better, maybe in 6 months and maybe a year, and all of that fucking long drawn out bullshit, Ferris wheel ass bullshit that may not occur the way he's saying it. And what I am telling you is because I did that, okay? And they do play games when they see you with the pattern of paying good. Like, I was paying the full amount, not in the manner that he's saying. I was paying it every month, but I was still paying the whole amount. Now, I hadn't used credit in years because I had gone through this credit-free cleansing myself from all, any obligation, anything that obligated me in the future, okay? So I didn't have anyone that I owed. And that was for many years. Well, when you do that, it brings your score all the way down to 0 again. You have to start all over again, okay? And I was credit free for a long time, so I only got the credit because it was down to zero to build it back up. So I was paying the full amount. Um, I would pay more than the minimum balance if I couldn't pay. If I couldn't pay or didn't want to pay the full amount at the time, whatever the reason, I was definitely taking care of business. They was sending me more and more and more and more credit cards, okay? But what people do not understand, they are sending you more credit cards because they are drawing more money off of you when you make all those fucking payments. And they're taking that whole fucking amount that you paid, and you paid the whole amount, okay, they're gonna take that whole amount that you paid, like they was giving me $500 credit cards at first, and just sending them to me pre-approved. And when I got the card or whatever, I was like, why are they just sending me card? I didn't even apply for it. Well, they all, they're sharing your information, so forth like that. And I'm going to get to the nitty gritty. I'm going to drop some juice right here. Okay, in just a minute. Just wait for it. Wait for it. All right, I'm dropping juice right here. And as they sent me more and more and more credit cards, and I was paying and everything, then all of a sudden, it was an issue with my bank and getting like my check, okay, and get my money. So next thing I know, of course, some other issues happened to me, and then I went to the mental hospital, and then that made all my stuff go haywire to not being paid on time. Okay, now from that, it's hard to catch up back up, and I just paid the full amount. Well, guess what? Capital One did. They said that my payment was suspicious because I paid the whole amount, more than what the credit card than I owed on the credit card. I tried to pay double. I didn't know you can't do that. Because I was like, I don't want to ever be behind again. Let me pay double. Let me pay $1,000 on that mama. And it was like, that was like an alert put on my account that something suspicious was happening. And they have a right to hold the balance on the account because it's suspicious activity. A suspicious payment, you say? Okay, so perhaps he's never experienced that, but they do pull stunts like that, and that's just one of the things that they did to me to hold the money. Okay, and even if you do not want to spend your money on on your balance, you need to know and understand when they're holding it. It is unlawful because it is not allowing you access to your funds. And when they did that, I was like, well, if y'all will put a hold, and it was a long time too, they had that hold on it. Because I kept calling, like, y'all said y'all was gonna take it off this day and y'all didn't. And I'm calling back, and it's another day done passed and y'all still haven't. And then another day, like that. And so anyway, let me tell you, okay, the whole tactic is they done reinvested your money a gazillion times over in that period. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them back. And then they want you to pay them ba And what they're doing is they're holding it for that uh, stock certificate or option or whatever they offering for it to mature, because they put it on a short term option, because they knew you was gonna want your money back. They knew you was gonna want the release of those funds back where you can access it. So they knew they had a limited time in which they could bullshit you with putting your funds on your card. And they did my sister the same way. Okay? So I don't know what you self-experience, but they probably let certain people through the gate that, due process is the way you did it. But trust me, it's good paying people out here. Everybody that has bad credit is not people that's not paying. They are liars. They put on my credit that my credit was bad after I paid the full balance. Where do they do that at? And then now they've been paid the full balance, and they still have credit limits and all of that stuff on my report that is inaccurate. So wait before you start rambling off at the mouth about people don't want to pay and didn't pay right and they bad and terrible paying self, because that is not applicable to everybody. And there's a large and growing group of people who are very responsible with their finances. And because of that reason, the financial institutions have come up with another gimmick and another scheme to knock them out, because they don't want you to establish good credit, because then they can't abuse you like they do people with bad credit. They plumb out abuse you. And so they literally create bad reports on people's credit. And this is the reason why a lot of people are seeking to sue the shit out of them, because they did pay. And they are angry that somebody sold them a bill of goods and said that if they do pay on time and do all this other extra stuff like paying the full amount and paying before time and all of that like we was doing, then that they would in turn reward our good payment history, not lie on the credit report and say that we terrible payers. And that's the bottom line of that. And so what I want people to understand, you can write them a nice, not real nice thank you letter for all those positive reports that say that they owe you money and that you have reported all of the accounts due to you to the IRS. I guarantee you some shit come up off your credit report. I guarantee you some shit start moving around. Report that shit to the IRS, I guarantee you. The way to do that is, oh man, I gotta do a whole video broadcast on it. But you want to report that amount as outstanding debt that you was paid. an outstanding debt that you was paid. Okay? What will happen is it will trigger the IRS to say, oh, really? Say, for example, your credit card amount is $1,000, especially if it's over $600, and you report it. Okay? And even the people that only give you $300, they're going to lie and they're going to double it. I had one company to do that. And I ain't even asked them for their little $300. I don't even want no credit card. What's $300? I don't even want that shit. I barely wanted the $500. And so they gave it to me, took it back. I never even got the card. I told them, I said, how somebody used the card and I never even received the card. And it's the type of gimmick that some of these rinky-dink credit card companies play. They pretend that they're going to send you a card, and then when you think you finna get a card and you've been approved, they spend the limit on the card too. And you never do get the card. They spend the limit on the card. They make it seem like you got an online account with a balance and everything. But next thing you know, you can't get to your account for a little while, right? This is the type of games they play inside a game. You can't get to your account for a little while. You're just thinking, oh, maybe I put my password in wrong. That's another game they play, making you reset your password. All they doing is creating a whole nother account. And when you do that, they're creating a whole nother account they can trade on. Okay? So they'll make you set your password and all that shit to get back in your account, and you're like, whew, I'm finally back in my account. Now, let me check out, and see, all the options and whatever is on my account. You go in that motherfucker, man, all kind of activity on that bitch. You like, what in the world? How's it activity on my card? I have not even gotten the card yet. Wow. Call the company. They're going to tell you, oh yeah, we put the first transaction. Didn't you see that in the, when you signed up? We put the first transaction on your card for you. For me? I ain't asked you to do that. And it, so that when you get your card, it's activated already. Well, why would you send me a card already activated? Nick, so it was spun before I even got. So when you file a so-called a report to say, look, these not charges, I ain't made these charges or whatever like that, they're going to continue to send you a bill for them charges on top of that and never remove them. That's what I'm saying. Shit like that. So you cannot say people are terrible with paying their bills when that had absolutely nothing to do with my bill. It was not mine. And they created the bill, created the account, created the bill, spent the money off the account, and charged me for it. And you think I'm a crash dummy, care enough about credit to pay for somebody else's good time? Oh, they was Ubering it up. Oh, no. That's not what we're doing. And how could they manage to get that detailed the information unless the credit card company gave it to them? Because you got it, you got the in order to for use the card on Uber, they want your shit to match up. So that's how I figured out it had to been the actual credit card company that would give you the card and spin it right back up. Yep. There are a lot of gimmicks out there that we trust. And that was the card that was recommended by Experian. So it wasn't no shit I seen an advertisement for on YouTube or something like that. It was a direct prompt offer on Experian. And they got my information from me applying to Capital One. And so they share your information with each other. And you don't know who gets your information when they do that. And you can't control who gets your information when they do that. But what you can do is you can help them do it more. Help them do it more. Blow that bitch up. Blow that motherfucking system up. Apply to everything and anything. I would just take an hour out of a day. And just every day for them same 6 months while somebody trying to build up some motherfucking credit, I would take them same 6 months, a couple of hours in a week, and apply for all type of shit. Just, I'll be the apply master. And apply for every damn thing. The only reason why I'm not doing that is because I got businesses and I have other things that I am applying with. So I am indeed applying every day, all day. Applying. That's what I do. Applications. I apply all types of different kinds, what they call different kinds of application. But what I am specifically talking about is what you understand to be an application. And that is when you apply for different companies. You, say for example, downloads. I would just, like, at any company that I would want to get a card from, I would just download their app and, fill out whatever their sign-up procedure is. Sign up, for a lot of different things. I would subscribe to things that are beneficial to me, channels on YouTube. This is why we attach ourselves by subscribing to very good channels where people are providing good content, what we graded as content-rich videos, because we apply our principles and our model to everything we do. You're always applying it in different ways in life. You're making an application of interest, okay? That's what I mean. You're submitting an application of interest in this video if you're watching it, okay, right now. So what I mean by apply is apply the knowledge that I've given you to create value, and then you will see the value you created when you know, as it mature. It has to mature. People got to understand what maturity terms are. Give it time for it to go in the ground, the seeds to go in the ground and grow your crop. Okay? A crop of applications. And once you dive further and subscribe, go and subscribe to this channel. And then we're going to walk you through how to water those plants, those seeds, to grow into plants. Okay? What you're doing is you're building a plantation of applications. All right? You got your plantation, your crops, and your workers that's working on them applications is whoever is trading and bonding and trading and bonding on them motherfuckers in the background. Them your workers in your plantation. And you just let them work for you. Okay? And then in the meantime, in between time, stay connected. And you'll learn the value of just filling out those applications. Just do it. Get you an application at wherever you do business already. Okay, let me be specific. Start there. Wherever you already do business, if they offer a credit card, apply. If they have an app, download it. Say for example, you go to a McDonald's every day. Download the McDonald's app. Do it instantly. Okay. If you go to Walmart often, download their app. Also sign up for their free membership. Okay, that's 2 applications right there. Okay, why am I counting it like that? Because each one count on their own, separate from each other, each application. When you download it, that was the application. When you signed up, that's the application. Okay? Apply, apply, apply. If they offer you a Walmart credit card coming across the screen, click on that bitch and send an application for that. If they offer you any damn thing else, I mean any damn thing else, scroll across that motherfucking screen, you click on that bitch and sign up. Take the time out. Sign up. It ain't gonna hurt you. Ain't gonna cost you nothing but a little time. And if you get the if you have Google and you have the auto fill in, Google helps out with that, with the applications, amen. Where you can auto fill in your applications. Auto fill them bitches. Go on the website. Start selecting shit like you got money. Just start selecting shit and put it in your cart. Leave it there. Just leave it there. I even, I'm instructing for you to leave it there, but I even process it with an old card that I already know it ain't gonna go through, but I process it through a venue. You know, through one of them people that done stole money from me already. And they got money of mine on that card. I still got that sucker programmed in my Google Wallet, where remember your credit card information, and I put that old card in there, and it'll reject it big as shit. But I don't give a damn. I act like it went through, and I just go on. You got to apply. That was an application. When I tried to apply that credit card to that account, that was an application. Apply. Because if someone was asking the question, well, why would you do that and you knew it wasn't gonna go through? because I had no intentions of paying in that manner. Okay? That was a private transaction. And I applied a private procedure that was documented in the background. Even when you get rejected for, say, a transaction, a financial transaction, there has to be a record of that. Okay? That's why you get the notifications. Your card was denied because you had insufficient funds, or your card was denied. This card is expired or invalid, whatever. Okay? Now you have evidence, and I'll screenshot that shit. Now I have evidence that now you rejecting transaction, but you in the background getting money from me. Where is my money? All right, that's why these procedures and applications is important. Now you have leverage. Now you have proof. Now you have, because when you get denied, they're gonna send you a letter. Keep that letter. We gonna discuss it later. Keep that letter. You can go to other channels, find out what you can do with that letter, or you can just hang on to it and just keep collecting them. Okay? Because having a letter is not as important as allowing that bond to mature. And the interest that you place in that application to mature. That's what you need. You need time. You need to be patient. While you doing other stuff, is life gonna stop happening? No, it is not. Just go and apply. Just now you're gonna be applying for things with purpose. You have a reason for doing this, okay? And it's okay if you be denied, right? You're like, okay, I don't care about them denying me. I'm still, that's just a lie they telling on the surface, that they deny me. Okay? That's the lie they telling you on the top. The computer telling, they had a computer to tell you was denied. And then we can, once you get to a point where you've applied, keep up with all your stuff you applied for. And when they give you a denial letter, print that shit out. If it's online, print that shit out. You always want to have papers, okay? Documentation and paper, because you can submit that in the court as evidence. And you can also turn that paper into an affidavit. Attach it to an affidavit. Have it notarized. Document it as it's an exhibit of evidence. And what it is an evidence of, it is an evidence of deceptive business practice. That is a bad motherfucker right there in court. Deceptive business practice. Not you being deceptive in applying, but them being deceptive in denying you. That part.